In Luxology, you can apply an environment to an exterior scene, where the environment is used to light the scene with or without light from installed 3D lights. Environments are also used to add backgrounds to scenes. Quite a complex subject. But environments are important in that they can produce very creative and realistic effects in scenes. I'm going to discuss only the basic concepts here. First, let's open Luxology, which is where we will find our environment settings. The icon we're looking at is this one. We have our default setups and the settings for those on the right-hand side. Now, in its simplest terms, the environment is the space that surrounds you, whether in an enclosed room or outside in the open air. What you see is lit by that environment, and Luxology can reproduce most aspects of an environment quite faithfully. An environment can only be applied to an interior scene if there are transparent or translucent openings in the exterior walls that allow environment light to enter the scene. An environment setting can be used to indirectly light a scene without the use of installed 3D lights. However, installed 3D lights can also be used to generate specific shadows in conjunction with environmental lighting. In general, environment lighting gives a soft ambient light. Now, in addition to the default environment setups on the left here, you can go to the File menu. You can make custom environments if you wish. However, I strongly suggest that you copy the default environments to different names to customize or experiment with the types and settings. If you do happen to edit the default settings, you can return to the defaults by clicking on File and Update from Library. Now, you must click the Enable box, as I've done here, to have the environment light a scene. And you can choose to have the environment lighting turn off or override the installed 3D lights. That's this switch here. The amount of environmental lighting in a scene is controlled by the slider, that's this, and larger values will tend to override installed lights and their shadows. So you need to be a little careful with that. In this drop-down menu, we have 5 types of environments: sky, light probe, image, image cube, and gradient. Each have different settings and light a scene in different but subtle ways. We'll be discussing this more a little later. Depending on the scene you are creating, you may or may not want the environment to be visible as a background. This is controlled in the visibility section, where you have 4 selections. Indirect, reflection, and refraction control whether those light processing options are used in the render. The camera option controls whether the environment is visible as a background. The environment will not be visible if the camera is off, but the environment will still light the scene. At the bottom of the settings box, you can enable a background, as we did in the previous video, and you can add fog to the scene as well. And we'll be looking at this in a later video. Now I want to quickly discuss some of the standard options available to you. First is Probe Alley. And this environment is an alleyway and uses a light probe called Japan Alley Final.hdr. And we can see that here. A light probe is an omnidirectional, i.e. a 360-degree panoramic high dynamic range image, therefore the .hdr extension. A light probe sees in all directions and can record actual light levels, so they are used for providing measurements of the incident illumination. MicroStation provides 4 HDR files, but you can download more from the internet with a web search. Be careful when using them as a background image because of their panoramic format. I would suggest that you probe the internet for more information on light probes so you understand that process. We have Gradient Sky 2 colors or Gradient Sky 4 colors, and here you can set a sky image to specific colors. In this case, 2 colors, the zenith and the nadir, or in a 4-color one, you can set zenith, sky color, ground color, and nadir. The material preview does a very quick preview of your environment, and you can check how the light will interact with a particular scene. Physical sky is essentially the same as a fog environment, but without the fog settings. That sounds a little strange, I know, but that's how it's defined. It simulates a real sky with a sun image, which is dependent on the solar settings in the Light Manager. We'll have a look at this again as well. We have Probe Park Sunny. This environment is similar to the alley environment, but lights the scene as if in an open park. In this case, it uses the Probe Park Sun Final HDR light probe. And the last couple to look at are Sky Cylinder and Sky Sphere. Here you can project an environmental map onto a hemisphere completely enclosing the scene. And there's a default image for that, shown here, and you can project it in several different ways. Okay, I think I've given you enough to think about for the moment. And this is quite a confusing subject at first. So if you need this sort of lighting effect, then you'll have to do quite a bit of research on the whole process. So the next video will actually apply an environment to our house scene.